Hi, I'm Nic Healey and I'm the Senior Editor with CNET.com.
What are some current examples of wearable technologies?
Probably the one that's caught everyone's attention is the very recent Apple Watch. Apple has a lot of marketing power, so that when they bring their focus to bear on a particular technology, people kind of pay attention. But there's been a lot of smartwatches before that, dating right back to the Pebble, a famously crowdfunded one. And before that, you're really looking at fitness trackers around Fitbit and Jawbone. And of course, the big one that people do remember is Google Glass.
Wearables have been associated with the concept of the quantified self. What is the quantified self and how does it relate to wearables?
So the quantified self, it's a term that was coined by Wired editor Kevin Kelly a few years ago. And it's basically the idea of quantifying elements of your day-to-day life. So for me, I fitness track. So my steps are always quantified, how many stairs I've walked up. I track macros in terms of my protein, carbohydrate and fat intake. And I track any of the actual workouts I do. I also do my sleep tracking. That's a really big one for me. Other people go much, much further. They can track total calorific intake, amount of water they're having, amount of coffee. It all runs back to this idea of knowing yourself better. There's a bit of a weird psychological phenomenon where the act of actually recording or observing yourself doing something tends to make you a little bit better at it. It's a phenomenon you see in a lot of workouts. If you're recording your times or your weights, you do a little bit better each time. The quantified self could be arguably that, but applied to a whole existence, not just a facet of it.
What do you think measuring ourselves in terms of numbers and stats says about our concept of individuality?
Well, look, there are definitely two ways of looking at this. One, it's quite a depressing look at the idea that we can just reduce ourselves to numbers and data. But if you look at it another way, you could argue that by knowing yourself better, you interact better in the world. Like, say for example, you've been tracking coffee intake and you've discovered that if you don't have one by 11, you are an absolute unbearable mess to deal with. So by changing that, because you've quantified it, you could change the way you're interacting with other people. I mean, you could, and it's a big bow to draw, long bow to draw, argue that this is a giant step in terms of human psyche.
So with the mass collection of personal data, do you think our privacy is at risk?
Privacy is always going to be an ongoing concern in the current world we live in, just absolutely. Certainly around measurement data, some of it's just very mundane stuff. A study a little while ago showed that a lot of the data that's sent from, say, a fitness tracker to your smartphone is unencrypted. So arguably that could be, blue-jacked. That's not really happening, but that's something to look towards. On the other side of it, when you're looking about location-based data and just the idea that there is a whole lot of data about your behaviour, yes, people could model you remarkably effectively based on some of this data. But to a large degree, privacy is the currency we spend for convenience. And if it's there to be spent, we will. Because I like the fact that I get an email about a flight that I might be taking. And my watch will have those flight details on it for me automatically without me having to say, please track this flight.
Okay, and what are some future examples of how this technology could be used?
Well, the big one that was talked to me about, the idea of the completely smart supermarket, for want of a better term. So you walk into a supermarket, you grab a cart. The cart's already talking to your phone to find where your shopping list is. It already knows what you want. It's directing you the most sensible way to go to get all the things on your list. It's reminding you if you've forgotten something. And then when you check out, you're just walking straight out because it already knows through RFID what you've got in the shopping cart, can already make your payment based on the sort of paywave technology, and that's it. There's no interaction other than you and what you need.
So one type of wearable technology that wasn't so popular, or at least not yet, the Google Glass kind of fizzled out. Why do you think there was resistance to
So
that?
I would argue that the most important facet of wearable technology is that it is always on you, or at least a majority of the time. Fitness trackers these days are designed to be worn 24/7. You only take it off to charge it. You want it in the shower, you want to sleep with it. Smartwatch you might take off at night, but arguably it's going to be with you every time you're awake. Google Glass had two things. One, it looked bloody ridiculous. Like, you looked like a bit of an idiot. There was a reason we had the term glass holes for people who wore them. The other one was its battery life was just terrible. So this idea of you having this wonderful little interface that was constantly with you wasn't true. It was never constantly with you. The other thing was the interface of it was, to people you were communicating with, a giant camera just facing at them. And that's a little alarming. No one wants that and no one likes that. So I think there was social resistance as well as just some technical issues around it. I think it was a technology ahead of its time. Head-mounted displays are going to be a big thing, but they're going to be built for purpose. You're going to wear it to watch a movie or to interact in VR, or with Microsoft's HoloLens to, maybe gaming or working on spreadsheets even, using these, sort of an augmented drop-down reality layered over the real one. But you're not going to have it on all the time.
So what roles do you think wearables will play in the future?
I think they're going to, and this is, not everyone agrees with me, but I think wearables are going to go on to become an essential part. They're going to become so de rigueur, we won't even regard them as wearables anymore. Do I think we might see smart tattoos soon? So instead of a wearable, it's actually an embedded piece of technology, a display that could show up when it's needed? Absolutely, I think that could be just around the corner.